So welcome everybody. Thank you so much for coming. We're going to be sharing just a little bit more insights on the SHOP4CF second open call, a little overview of why we're organizing this, and there we go. So first of all, this is us. We've got Maria with us, who's an innovation project manager at Technical University of Munich. We've got Peter, who's a wireless business developer at IMEC, and who's got all the technical knowledge, who's going to be answering all the more difficult questions, or at least the more technical ones. And myself from ISDI, Head of Communications of the Accelerator. And in this case, well, it's the three of us together. We're going to be presenting SHOP4CF. This is just a small agenda. I'll just go quickly. At the end, please write all the questions you might have in the chat. And if they happen to be many or too complicated, we'll upgrade you so that you can just unmute yourself and make it easier. So let's go ahead. So manufacturing plays a crucial role in the European economy, as almost 10% of all enterprises in the European Union are in the manufacturing sector. That's basically more than 2 million organizations, and in addition, actually around 22% of all workers in the EU are employed in the manufacturing sector. And here are just some data that we've thrown here at you, because their turnover is 7,300 billion euros, and there's a lot of added value, which is basically 27% of the total added value in the EU. Then we've got a few European manufacturing challenges in this case. However, it's like only a small percentage of companies in the manufacturing sector are highly digitalized. So this means that most of the potentially useful information generated in those companies is lost, because labor costs are high, and also due to the aging of the population, factories are having a really hard time finding workers who can keep up with the physical demands of the job, for example. And also the increasing labor costs in Europe is driving companies to produce and hire in cheaper countries, which in the end, this has a long-term negative effect in the European economy. And many factories attempt to solve these problems by incorporating machines or robotic workers, but this can actually lead to solutions to problems of its own. And these challenges in the European manufacturing are the ones that are directly addressed in the SHOP4CF Open Call. So here, what are we doing? We create a software platform with a variety of reusable technology components for the convenient development of manufacturing environments. So this way we increase the degree of digitalization in the different enterprises. Also, we believe that the outcome will definitely have a positive impact in the labor market, as the human worker is not simply replaced by automated processes, and they can actually work on things where they do have actual value and creativity, for example, adaptability or tactile sense, for example. So how are we going to address these goals in SHOP4CF? And this is where my colleague Peter enters, explaining the more technical part of it.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. So yeah, as Alexandra already said, so our marketplace where we gather all the components is the central part in the SHOP4CF project. If you could skip to the next slide. So we have components for a various number of applications, components that are specialized in data collection, anomaly detection, reasoning, predictive quality, and so on. And then system integrators, or you in this case, can combine all of these components, or several of these components, into specific pilot cases. Of course, what we offer is not limitative, so we don't offer components for every use case that you might have in mind. So the idea is that we try to expand this marketplace with new components, or that you see a component that we provide and you think it's not providing sufficient functionality or it's lacking something, then you can extend that component. Next slide, please. Yeah, so on top of the marketplace, as I said, this is central. We also offer an entire business ecosystem. So our partner Funding Box, I think, is providing that one, and the community where you can get in touch with other experimenters. So basically, all actors from the manufacturing industry are present there in that community, and you can interact with each other. So these are the different parts of the project that we then split up into different work packages in this project. But I don't know if I have to go into detail, but maybe to pick a few. So we have a specific work package on components where we developed some of the components that we offer in this marketplace, and then we also, of course, we focus highly on the human aspects of these components. So the idea is that everything we develop in this project should have at least some benefit for the humans that are involved in the factory. A benefit can be making that human more productive, making the environment more safe, avoiding heavy lifting tasks, for example, for humans, and so on. So we are 20 partners, so it's quite a big project. We are spread over Europe. We have a few SMEs, industry partners, research organizations, and universities. And yeah, specific at those industry partners, so at the big industry partners, we are also developing some pilot cases ourselves, where we combine a lot of the components that we offer in this marketplace to make sure that they function as promised. About the second open call, Alexandra, please stop me if it's not my slide anymore, but I think this is still mine. So we want to solve real challenges in a manufacturing environment with the focus, as I said before, on the human aspects, so safety, well-being, productivity, and so on. And yeah, the proposed use case should be based on a set of modular software components. But it doesn't mean that if you're, for example, developing software to control a robotic arm, of course, there's a lot of the times, or sometimes, there will be also a hardware component involved. But it should be somehow usable over the entire, or at least part of the manufacturing sector. So it shouldn't be specific only to your solution. So it should have a benefit for the entire sector. So who can apply? As you see there on the left, so system integrators, manufacturing companies, developers. We don't really have that much limitations there. You can apply on yourself, but it does have a bit of an impact on the funding, which I think Maria will explain later. But the idea is that you form a consortium. So that's the ideal case. For example, if you develop a certain software component, you might team up with an industry partner who has really a shop floor at its disposal to test that component. So that's crucial for this call. So everything that is newly developed should also be tested on the factory floor. What you can do there, I shortly tackled that already. So you can reuse existing SHOP4CF components. You can extend SHOP4CF components, or you can make new components, an entirely new component, or a mixture of them. If you create new components, and I think that's the next slide. If you create new components, so there are a few rules you have to adhere to. So you have to implement our architecture and our related data models. So basically that means that you have to use the FiWare context broker. So there's quite a large community in the manufacturing sector using FiWare already. So we made the choice to be everything that we develop should be compatible with FiWare. And of course, we have a certain data model, a certain language, which we use to talk amongst the different components. Of course, you have to respect that data model. Then next, the third point, you have to be able to run your component, or at least the majority of your component, in a Docker container, which you will have to upload to RAMP as a Docker image at the end of the project, so that it can be used by other parties, of course. And yeah, it should be mainly a software solution, as I already said, but of course we understand, for example, if you're providing an indoor localization system, yeah, there will be some hardware involved also, but at least there should be a software part involved. And if you propose an open call experiment on existing components, of course, the existing components are already compliant with the SHOP4CF architecture, but any extensions that you do shouldn't conflict, of course, with those requirements. I think that's it for my side. Yeah.
Yes, good morning, everyone. So I will be explaining a little bit the benefits of for the selected applicants. So, and we are offering up to 100,000 euros in equity-free funding per use case. And in the next slide, I will be explaining also the funding details. So, so the funding experiment, we also take part of an 8-month implementation program where we will be assigning them a technical and a business mentor to each funded use case. And these mentors will be following the supporting activities like technology support, for example, for the deployment and the implementation of the pilots and the development of the components. We will also have business coaching to provide also guidance on how to present and their components, and how to understand also how to use the marketplace to promote their components. And also we will have financing and mentoring to support and the involved companies, especially the developers of new components, in acquiring maybe follow-up funding and to ensure their long-term success with their project. And next slide, please. So for the second open call funding, as we say before, we are offering up to 100,000 euros per use case. This will be equity free. And we will be covering also personal expenses, the cost of travel, as you see, including accommodation and consumables. Due to the nature of our call, we will not be covering the usual 25% of overheads. So the funding is also regulated by the lump sum approach. This is a new approach of the European Commission where we won't be asking you the reporting of the actual cost. So this is, let's say, we are cutting a lot of work regarding the financial reporting, because we will ask you is the technical report on the development of their work. So let's say, as you see, we have also the payment timeline. We will be going step by step, analyzing and working with you on your goals and on the KPIs that you will be reaching during the implementation period that we have during the 8 months. So the funding rate is 100% for non-profit organization and 70% for profit entities. You will see on the application form that we have a widget where you can upload your cost structure, and according to your organization nature, it will automatically calculate everything there, so you don't have to worry about that. We will see your funding rate directly on your application form. Regarding the funding, so we also have let's say a 2-step funding limit. The first one is that the European Commission has a rule that they will award up to 100,000 per legal entity through the 2 main open calls of Horizon 2020. There are I4MS and Smart Anything everywhere project. So if you already receive, let's say, more than 100,000 euros in funding, this is per legal entity, we will need to have, let's say, like an extra authorization from our project officer. But if you didn't reach this limit, it's not a problem to apply for our call. The other limit is that we can grant a maximum of 60,000 per partner or single applicant. That means if you are applying as a single applicant, your limit is 60,000 for our call. But if you are applying, for example, as a consortium, of course, you can apply for 100,000, and then inside, let's say, that funding, we cannot give more than 60,000 to a single consortium partner. So these are the two rules that we have that unfortunately we have to follow after the European Commission's final guidelines. So the next slide. Okay, so the program timeline. You can see that the deadline for application is at the end of this month by April 30th, and then we will have a proposal evaluation and selection period from May to July. At the end of July, we will be announcing, let's say, before the end of July, we will be announcing the selected experiments, and we will start also all the contracting procedures with all the paperwork to access to the funding. And as soon as we have all the contracting details signed, the experiments will be starting on the 1st of August. And then you will have 8 months for the implementation and development of your experiment. So you can see also the payment schedule here. We will have a 40% first step of payment at the beginning of the experiment. Then after the first 4 months of development, we will have another interim payment of 40% after an analysis and approval of the work that you did in the first 4 months. And let's say at the end of the implementation period, we will pay the final 20% after a final evaluation of your work during the whole implementation period. So next slide. So here you have, and we will be sending you also these all these details. We have the useful links. We prepare a showcase of the existing components. You can find them on our website. Under the page Marketplace, you will find that we have a summary with a brief explanation of all the available components that you can also use if you want to present your experiment with them. We have also the Second Goal website, when you find also a summary of all the things that we were saying here. And the application platform, it's also in this link, opencalls.shop4cf.eu. There you can find also very useful documents like the guide for applicants, the funding agreement template. On the funding agreement template, you will also find everything related to the IP management. And just a brief summary, everything that you develop during the 8 months, it's yours. We are not taking ownership, let's say, on the results of your experiments. As we said before, the grant that we are offering is equity free, so you don't have to worry about that. And you will find also all the details about the SHOP4CF architecture in a separate file, when you can find all the technical explanation of how our marketplace and architecture works. So from my side is everything. So we can start maybe with the questions.
Yeah, we actually already have a few. So Juan has the first question, and it says that, I'm not sure if you guys can read it, but which level of detail should have the architecture, should the architecture have, and communication documents we must submit for new component proposals? I'm not sure, Maria or Peter.
Yes, and once you access to the Open Call platform, maybe Alex, you can go to the previous slide.
Yeah.
Okay, on the third link, once you register to the platform, you will be able to access to the application form. This year we have, let's say the application form, it's totally, let's say, online, and you don't have Word documents to download. You can complete everything directly on the platform. And we are asking questions about, of course, the use case, the characteristics of the industrial environment. This is also an interesting thing about the entities that want to apply as a single applicant. Please consider that usually on the use case, we want to see not only, let's say, your solution, but also the environment where your solution will be applied. So even if you don't have, let's say, a consortium partner, please think about a manufacturing environment where your solution can be implemented and specifically can be tested. So maybe if you have a client, or if you have someone, I don't know, another entity that can test, this could be also a very interesting thing to include in your application. This is something especially important for the single applicant. Then we are asking you about the pre-existing components, if you're choosing to work with one of them or two or three of them. Then, of course, we ask a brief explanation about the components that you are developing or extending. And also an explanation about your components within the SHOP4CF architecture. You will be able also to upload, let's say, a graphic explanation of how your experiment and all the components that you are developing or extending are expected to interact with the SHOP4CF architecture. And then also we ask a graphic explanation about the communication architecture of your experiments. So you will see all these questions are on the application form.
Okay, great, Maria. Thank you so much. I hope, Juan, this is enough information. So his next question actually is a proposal using Fireware Context Broker with a software application as the single component to integrate without developing a new component nor using other SHOP4CF components. Would it be an eligible proposal? Maybe, I'm not sure if Peter, you have more an idea.
Maybe I can shortly comment. If Maria, if you don't agree, you can jump in. But yeah, so obviously you have to do at least something in your experiment. Of course, yeah, you have to. It's not sufficient that you just take a software application and as is, and make it Fireware compatible, and then you launch that. So it should at least propose something new for the manufacturing environment. But as I understand your question, so you say a software application as the single component to integrate. Well, then that software application would be your new component, I think, in as far as SHOP4CF goes. You have 8 months to do the experiment. You are eligible for the call if you do at least one of those things. So make a new component. In this case, that would be software application. You're eligible, but of course, yeah, your chances of success will depend on the quality of your experiment that you propose, and on the usefulness. So, but in principle, yes, you are eligible if you just take a software application, make it Fireware compatible, and you propose that as a new component, then you are eligible. Yeah.
Great, thank you so much, Peter. Okay, interesting question. So do you think, guys, Maria and Peter, are there going to be any traveling, at least for the moment until now? As far as I know, there has not been any face-to-face meetings, but I mean, things are changing gradually, aren't they, Maria?
Yeah. Right now, of course, as you may know, due to the corona situation, we are not comfortable enough to organize a long-term, let's say, travels. But here, for example, you can also include, if you have, I don't know, a partner or manufacturing company, or the site where you need to test your component. So these kind of travel expenses that are related to your experiments can be also included here. But of course, in the future, we will see if we have the opportunity and we have all the, let's say, all the rules around, especially in Europe, are aligned. We can also see the possibility to organize maybe not the kickoff, but at least at the end, a demo meeting, just to see the results of your experiments.
Okay, I think I erased one question there, but it was about the limits of characters in the form. I can confirm that there's no limit, so you can be as extent as you need to be. I think Juan, you were asking that, and I don't know what I clicked, and I lost that question. But so there's no limit. There's another question from Juan. There are no indirect costs in the budget. Should we add to each budget item, or is this not considered?
So once you open, let's say, the application, you will see that you have a specific, let's say, a specific fields to fill for the budget. We divide these, as I said, for travel expenses and consumables and personal costs. And yes, we are not covering the overheads. You will see that the funded overhead rate on the table that we include on the application form, it's 0%. So at the end, you will have automatically the total of your budget. Another thing you need to consider is that we also ask you if you have an in-kind contributions. For example, I don't know, assets that you already have that you want to put, that you want to include in your experiment. You can also add that in the in-kind contribution area. And another thing that we will be asking you is to distribute the total cost of your experiment, of your use case, in the tasks that you will be filling in the application form. So just to have an idea of how are you willing to expend your budget during the 8 months.
So maybe this one, Maria, if one of the potential applicants is part of another EU program, in this case Fabio is asking, he's part of the EU agri-food project.
Yes, so for us, it's not a problem. The only thing that you need to consider is that if this European project is already it's part of I4MS, Horizon 2020 project that is included in the I4MS, or Smart Anything Everywhere project. So if you reach, let's say, the funding limit that the European Commission unfortunately put on, you can also present, in any case, you can present your proposal, and we can ask the project officer, because the project officer will be checking, let's say, all the applicants as a single entities, if each applicant already reached this limit. So you need to check if you are within this Horizon 2020 project. So specifically, I don't know.
Yeah, this also is, Chiara, because I think you are specifically also asking, about this and about the H2020 I4MS and Smart Things Everywhere. I'm not sure if this answer actually already answers what you were asking. Just let me know on the chat if this is enough, or if you need a little bit more in-depth explanation. So also, is the applicant going to be only working on software ideas, as it's not an easy one for if you're a robotic company? That's a concern of Fabio's. Peter.
Yeah, well, so as I said, there can be a hardware part involved in the experiment. But for example, if you develop, let's say, a system to integrate certain kinds of sensors on robotic arms, and you monitor the values of those sensor measurements in your software application, you expose, and then you do some kind of, let's say, predictive maintenance on there to predict when that robotic arm is going to fail. Well, that's of course something that is eligible for this call. So it's not because the hardware of the robotic arm is involved that you're not eligible. But as we are exposing or we're having this marketplace, yeah, we need at least some software part in your experiment that we can expose and other parties can use. I don't know if that's sufficient.
Well, if not, Fabio, let us know, and we can also, maybe go a little bit more into depth afterwards. George is asking that, two companies of the same group with different roles inside the project, can they apply in partnership?
So this is a question that we usually get. So if the two companies are two separate legal entities, it shouldn't be a problem. What you need to consider is that you need to have two different PICs on the European Commission platform. So if you have two different legal entities with two different, let's say, VAT numbers, for us, it shouldn't be a problem to accept your application.
Okay. Then Violeta is asking, like,
yeah, I read Chiara's long question. So in theory, you are right. So we need to check this 100,000 euros limit via open calls that are related, again, to these two project groups, E4MS and Smart Anything Everywhere. We need to receive the okay from the PO. We could ask, for example, if the use case is super relevant, is very well structured, and is, let's say, useful also for SHOP4CF as a project, we can ask for an exception, but we cannot guarantee that it will be accepted, because you will see that several open calls that are within these two programs, I4MS and Smart Anything Everywhere, we have this limit. And unfortunately, as soon as we receive the applications, we need to check, let's say, for each partner, if they are, let's say, within the limit.
Okay, cool, thanks. And in the case, if any of these questions are, you need a little more in depth, I'll leave my email here so we can answer them, more extensively. And the last question, oh no, not the last, but Violetta is asking that, there are 4 companies listed as corporate pilot partners, which in this case, Bosch, Siemens, Arçelik, and Volkswagen. So, there are very specific use cases, and how does this relate to the application if they can apply with a solution that tackles one specific use case that these 4 different companies are discussing? Maybe Peter, you can go ahead.
I'm not sure I entirely get. Can we apply with a solution that tackles one specific use case that these companies discuss? Well, of course, if we already have a pilot case that does exactly the same thing as the thing you are proposing, that's not increasing your chances of acceptance, of course. So that would be, I think, my answer to this question. So try not to get inspiration from our use cases, because those things we are already doing. Try to build your own use case, and for the more companies it's useful, the better it will be for your application. So if it's only specific for one solution, or if it can be applied broader, that's always improving your chances of acceptance.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, that actually makes sense. So I think Fabio was just doing, commenting on what we answered. So, if that's it for today, I think, we can wrap it up. I'm going to leave you guys, everybody that's attending the session, my email, even though I'm sure you've received emails from me, quite a few, just in case you want to talk a little further if you have any more doubts, and I'll make sure I can put you in contact with the right partner to solve your different questions. And just, a quick reminder, the deadline is on the 30th of April, so that's not long. And I suggest that if you are planning on applying, that you start already, you enter the platform, you start your application, because, maybe more questions can rise while you're actually writing it. And I'm sure you do need a little time to finalize the application. And thank you so much, Maria and Peter, for being here and solving all the doubts. I really hope, let me stop sharing, but I hope that, everybody here, that we've that we solved your questions as well as we've been able to. And please write us an email if you need anything else. If there's anything you need to add, Maria or Peter, please go ahead.
No, if you have also issues with the Open Call platform, please contact us via email. So we will be also waiting for your doubts and questions. Just let us know, and if we can help you with your application, we will be here happy to support you. So good luck with the application.
Yeah, good luck, guys. Thank you very much.